Today we're making roasted broccoli. This is broccoli you're gonna wanna eat. This is one of my favorite ways to make broccoli. It's super flavorful. You may never just have steamed broccoli ever again. So I'm using a 12-ounce bag of frozen broccoli, and I'm going to measure it out for you. In case you're using fresh, I always use frozen. So let's say that's 2 cups. So let's say that's 4 cups. 4 cups of broccoli. My oven is preheated to 425 degrees. I'm going to use 3 tablespoons of oil. I'm using light olive oil. You can use vegetable oil or canola oil. For every 4 ounces of broccoli you have, you're going to use a 1/4 teaspoon. So when I originally started roasting my broccoli like this, I could get my broccoli in a 1-pound bag. Right now, I'm only finding it in a 12-ounce bag or a 32-ounce bag. So I had to adjust my measurements from 1 teaspoon of salt down to 3/4 of a teaspoon. So for 12 ounces of broccoli, or 4 cups, we're using 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 3/4 of a teaspoon of onion powder, 3/4 of a teaspoon of garlic powder, and I'm just gonna put in some freshly cracked black pepper, maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon. And then we're going to give that all a mix. Now, one thing is you may be like, well, the spices are gonna kind of stick to the frozen broccoli and it's not gonna distribute as evenly. Oops. And you might be right, but trust me on this. I love how easy this is. You don't have to take the time to cut the broccoli. It's kind of just an easy, flavorful, roasted veggie idea for when you don't have a lot of time and you don't want to spend a lot of time prepping it. But you actually want to enjoy eating your veggies, because veggies are good for you. And sometimes we just don't care to eat them. Also, don't use less oil. The oil helps with the flavor, and it helps your broccoli to brown and kind of caramelize a little bit when you roast it. So once all of your broccoli is tossed, it's got its oil and the spices all over, you're gonna wanna get out a large baking sheet. I always line mine with foil or parchment paper just for easy cleanup. Pour your broccoli onto it. And I always scrape out my bowl. There's so much oil and seasoning that's left in there, and I don't want us to miss out on any of it. And then an important part of roasting is spreading out your broccoli. Because if the veggies are just right next to each other, they start to cook, they start to steam, and then they just like steam their neighbor. And it takes a long time, and it makes it a lot harder for them to get nice browned and golden and get a little bit of crispiness on each piece. So spread out your broccoli. And then I roast this for about 35 minutes. And depending on how big your broccoli is, mine is broccoli florets. If you do chopped broccoli, you're gonna need a lot less time because there'll be a lot smaller pieces. Just make sure, again, they're spread out. So I'm gonna start with 30 minutes, but I'm just gonna keep it roasting until they get a nice golden color on them. Now, I think that's some beautifully roasted broccoli. The green, like the stem of the broccoli, you're gonna get a little bit of goldenness. You're gonna get a lot more of like the super crispiness on the floret part, like the leaves of the tree. Delicious. And you might see some spots that are like quite dark, but don't worry, they're usually okay as long as it's not completely blackened. Again, that's why it's important to keep an eye on your broccoli. Now your broccoli is gonna cool off relatively quickly, so it's best to just serve it right away. So let's go ahead and give this broccoli a taste test. It's well salted. That little bit of caramelization of the oil, the onion and garlic are perfect. They're not too much, they're not enough. Super flavorful. And if you're someone who, like, I will eat broccoli. I will eat steamed broccoli. Put a little salt and pepper on there. It's okay. Like, it's not something that I'm like, yes, I want that. This broccoli is like, yes, I want that. This is, maybe I want seconds on this broccoli. Some of these that have a nice flat side that touches the bottom, lays on your pan, gets nice and got a little crispy crust on there. Delicious. And again, you can play around with the salt if you want to start with a half teaspoon. Again, for 12 ounces, that would be okay. You can always add salt after. Give them a taste test once they're roasted, need a little bit of salt, not a problem. If it's too salty, you're not going to be able to get away from that once it's in your broccoli. Again, don't use less oil. That is so important in the flavor and helping the spice stick, and the roasting, getting nice and golden and caramelized. The oil is really important. I used light olive oil because it can stand up to that 425-degree oven. I will leave all the ingredients and the instructions down below in the description for you guys. And if you're looking for another delicious roasting recipe, something to serve for supper, go ahead and click here on screen and I'll see you guys there.